Hey everyone, it is Natalie, and today we have an interesting conversation that we're going to go through. I don't know if you've ever heard the term work-life play, but as part of my course, Being Intentionally Creative, I decided that needed to be switched up a little bit. And I'm going to explain to you why, but I just wanted to give you a visual that you could see. So instead of it being work-life play, as it is down here, I've switched it around to be life, play, work. And that little triangle makes sense because we'd have life. I got to make sure I get this right. Life, yep, play, and work. All right, I just wanted you to see this visual, okay? Because I think it's important. So it seems to me that in life, we have this sense that everything's got to be based around work. And I guess in some sense, everything we do could be a form of work. It just depends on what you define as work, and your age is going to have a lot to do with whether it's work or something else, and life. So because of the fact that when we're born, we don't automatically start working, I thought the work-life play just didn't make any sense. And I thought, why should play be at the end of this? Aren't we supposed to be having fun in life? Aren't we supposed to be being our authentic selves and being creative and having fun along the way, versus it being so centralized around work? And I can appreciate that from being in the corporate world for 28 years. We get to a certain point in our lives where all of a sudden we get into being work people. Now, some people have work that they absolutely love to do, and other people may not have work that they so much love to do, but it's what they do and they need to do it. But I just wanted to sort of see if I could get you sort of to change your minds to go from work, life, play to life, play, work. And why do I want you to do that? Because I think it puts into perspective a little bit more about what our lives are supposed to be really about versus it being so centralized on work. Work's important, I get that. This, what I'm doing, is important to me, and yet this does not feel like work to me because I love talking about being intentionally creative. So that to me isn't work, that's more play, which is interesting, right? That it's play, it's not really work. So let's talk about life, play, work. And why did I change it up? You were born. You have life. That's where you start. You don't start at work. You start at life. And when you're born, you are creative. And one may think, well, as a baby, how can I be creative? Well, when you're hungry, you would cry. When you needed a hug, you would, go to your parent and get that hug. So there is creativity in every aspect of our lives, as far as I'm concerned anyway. Some might object to that with me, but I think there's a lot to be said for us being creative when we're born. And we're definitely more creative as children than I think we are as adults, unless, of course, you've got one of those really fun, creative jobs and or you know how to make the job you've got creative. So we're born and we are creative. Now, as we're growing up, and I'm going to say in those early years, we play a lot. So I'm not sure why we ever put play at the end of the work-life play. Because when I think about it, I think I'm born, I'm young, I was out playing when I was a little kid. I don't, there may be some kids that are out, they had their paper route, but that probably wasn't until you were 12 or 13 years old. So you had a period of time where you got to play. So I'm born, life, I play, and then I get to the point where I go to work. So to me, it made a lot more sense to go life, I'm born, I'm creative, I'm young, I play, I'm creative there. And if we were enticed or had someone in our lives who could point out the creativity or knew about the creativity enough when we're young to say to a child that's playing, I can see you're being creative in what you're doing. Whatever that is, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's playing cards and building them into a house, whether it's coloring, whether it's playing a sport. Like, creativity is, as we've talked about, absolutely everywhere. So again, why would we go work, life, play instead of life, play, and then work? And if we understood the dynamics of the whole being creative, then we would go from that being born to that point of playing, and then we get into work. And because if we understood the creativity, then we could take it into our work and possibly, not all the time, but possibly understand the creative world, understand the creativity lives everywhere, and be able to bring that into our work section of our lives, if you will, to make it more interesting, to make it more fun, and, potentially have us waking up in the morning going, yes, I want to go to work because today I get to be creative doing whatever. So I think of some jobs that may seem very mundane, very boring. I worked in a factory at one point before I got into the corporate world, and I can tell you I was bored out of my mind. Like, I'm the type of individual who I have to be able to do a lot of different things because I get bored too easily. And maybe that's just because I learned that growing up. I'm not sure where that I always get bored bit comes in, but I find even with my artwork, I have to keep switching it up because I do get bored, and I want to continue to learn new things in order to keep myself interested. But I also realize that when I sort of fall out of that creative aspect, that it's not as much fun for me to do what I do. And I've realized that more recently, that I've gotten sort of into the boredom and I'm not having as much fun. So I need to bring creativity back into what I'm doing. And part of that is by doing different things. So getting back to the job I had in the factory, it was just placing pieces of stick onto a great big board that was used. And I'm trying to think again where we had them, but that doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't matter. But again, I think if I had understood what creativity was all about, then perhaps my days wouldn't have seemed so long and so daunting doing what I was doing of a repetitive job. Maybe I could have switched things up a bit. Maybe I could have looked at it differently as to sort of building like a jigsaw puzzle versus just slapping pieces of wood onto a board and making sure they fit within the guidelines of what was on this board. And in work, like, we're not taught to play. We're not taught to be creative in some roles anyways. Like, no one mentions, so how can we creatively do this? Or how can you creatively do this? Or what creative ideas have you got? Like, that word is not used in our work environment. And we're sort of taught when we get to a certain age, stop playing, now you got to get serious. And I think that's a huge mistake. I don't feel we should cut the whole play out or cut, the creativity out, because it's almost like you want people to be boring. You don't want them to use their minds. And I think we have incredible minds, and there's scientific proof out there to say we are extremely intelligent. Maybe not in everything, and nor would I can't even, but there are some things we're incredibly intelligent about. When we talk about creativity, that is incredibly powerful. But anyway, I'm sort of going off on a bit of a tangent, but I really think it's important that we redefine or replace the words in a different lineup in order to appreciate the fact that we were born, then we played, then we went to work. And I think the other interesting thing is that people, when they get done with their work life, and I can speak to this too, because I've been out of the corporate world for 8 years now, and I do have those moments where I wonder, well, now what? What am I supposed to do? Well, I think about it, and that's why I did the triangle, was because I wanted you to think about life, play, work, life. Because now you get to go back into your life. You've stepped away from the corporate world for whatever reason, or not even the corporate world. You stepped away from work, and now you get to go back into life. And if you know about creativity and you understand all the magical places it lives and you start doing something you love to do, then you're back into life again, and then you get to play again. And maybe work comes back into it. Like, that's what I like about, I started life, I played, I went to work, knew nothing about creativity, I left work, I got back into life, I'm playing because I need to be, invested in different things, so I'm playing again in order to get better and better at what I'm doing. And the potential of the work is also there for the pieces I create for others, for the people I talk to about being intentionally creative. But it's a cycle, isn't it? It doesn't seem to stop. Now, we could, as people who retire, could just say, I don't want any of the work part. I just want the life and play. And that's totally cool, because you need to do you as far as what you want, where you're headed. I look at myself and I think, okay, the age I'm at, I'm not ready to sort of, just stop altogether. I don't want to. I would get bored too easily. But I'm definitely into the whole, I'm back at life and I'm playing, but I'm also working. And I'll just keep that cycle going until finally I say, I'm done. I don't need to, I'll play, but I won't play for showing other people things. I won't play in the aspect of, working with people in regards to being intentionally creative. I will just live and play. So I challenge you. I hope that you will think about this a little bit for yourself as far as this whole work-life play thing goes, and go life, play, work, because it makes a lot more sense going in that direction, I think. And it's putting too much of an emphasis on work. Yes, work is important. Yes, we need to pay our bills. But how much of work has taken over our lives and taken away the play that we really want to have in our lives, that can bring us joy and challenges and excitement and bring us back to life again? Because I used to hear stories of people who would retire, but they never knew what to do with themselves because they didn't understand that now is a new chapter where you get to play again, and that's okay. Go ahead and play, because through that play, you may very well just fall into something else that brings you much joy, and you might want to start working again. And if you don't, maybe you just share with people what you're learning as you're going through this next season of your life. Anyway, I think I've covered everything. I didn't want to make this very long. I'm just looking at my notes here. But I want you to think about that. Do you really want to look at it from work, life, play? Or have I made sense in that, no, maybe we should do life, play, work, and then repeat that cycle if we want to, once we get into our golden years. Is that what they call these? Anyway, this was an interesting one. I went through my notes and I found this, and I thought, no, let's talk about this. Let's see if I can sort of shift people's mindset of what we're really dealing with here. It may resonate with you, it may not, and that's totally cool. As I say, if I say something and it doesn't fit who you are, I get it, and I'm okay with that. Again, take in all I share with you, take in none of what I share with you, take in some of what I share with you, or you massage it to fit who you are as an individual, because I don't know. I'm just sharing my thoughts with you. Maybe they'll land, maybe they won't, and that's totally cool with whatever works for you. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you have found it informative. I hope it's a bit thought-provoking, if nothing else. And if this doesn't resonate with you again, hey, I'm totally cool with that. Anyway, have a great creative day, whatever point of your life you're in. And hey, if you have any comments, please leave them below. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care, and bye for now.